I got married the smart way. My husband and I eloped at City Hall in New York. No planning, no audience, no budget, no fuss. For us, it was perfect. Then the doubt crept in. Shouldn't we at least have a party for our family's sake? Aren't they missing out? Are we missing out? It was meant to be casual, but I got swept away. Fancy white dress, hall, caterers, 100 people. It was fun and I'm glad we did it, but damn it, turns out we just had a wedding anyway. That's how ads in a trusted environment usually go too. It starts with principles and restraint. Then comes the pressure to scale, the urge to add just one more thing, and suddenly you've rebuilt the very machine you were trying to avoid. A couple of weeks ago, one of the leaders of OpenAI's advertising division, Asad Awan, went on the record about exactly how ads will work inside ChatGPT. The full interview is on the OpenAI podcast, and it's definitely worth listening to that, regardless of where you sit in the retail media ecosystem. But I'm going to break down a few of the things that I found interesting, what I was really comforted to hear, what else kind of stood out to me, and a few more observations. Back in November, I wrote a piece for The Drum arguing that ads inside AI assistants don't necessarily have to be terrible. It was, by my own admission, hopelessly optimistic. Now, predicting that OpenAI would launch ads wasn't exactly bold. It seemed kind of obvious from some of the hiring moves that they've made, including hiring Fidji Simo from Instacart to run the applications business. The harder questions were about how they would actually do it. So now that this thing actually exists, people have started to see these ads show up in ChatGPT, it's worth checking whether that optimism on my part was warranted. And so here's where my earlier thinking lines up with what Asad Awan explained in the podcast. So first, I argued that the ad layer should be architecturally separate from the model. The answers shouldn't be corrupted by who is paying to be there. And I was comforted to hear Awan confirm this explicitly, that the model doesn't even know that an ad exists in the response. If you ask ChatGPT about an ad on the screen, it will say, I don't know. So you have to actually press a button to bring the ad into the conversation. Now that is a harder wall between the model and the ad layer than even what I was expecting or hopeful for. So that is good to know. Second thing I argued for is contextual targeting over surveillance-based tracking. Awan described matching ads to conversation themes with sensitive topics like health, politics, violence, automatically excluded from ad inventory. Users can see exactly what data is being used, they can clear their history, they can turn off personalization entirely. Again, more robust controls than I'd assumed. And thirdly, I suggested that the new model, which ad industry veteran Brian O'Kelly calls agentic advertising, which is all about targeting content rather than people, that could avoid the privacy nightmares that broke trust in traditional digital ads. Again, Awan's rubric fits this mold, that user trust comes above user value, which comes above advertiser value, which comes above revenue. Now that sure sounds like AI ads may have been paying attention to some of the challenges happening over here in this strange little corner of the media universe called retail media. You and I have talked about how retailers like Costco are putting things like membership renewals and membership value ahead of ad revenue growth. They know that they could make a heck of a lot more money through media sales, but they are holding back on that because they understand that they could in fact kill the golden goose of their core retail business if they dial in the ads too much. So those were some of the easy calls that I landed. Let's talk about some of the more interesting things, that I didn't anticipate. First, this philosophy called one good ad is enough. If there is no relevant match, OpenAI would rather show no ads than any ads. Here's what Awan said in the interview. You don't want advertisers to pay randomly for impressions. You don't want users to see too many ads. You want to show the one right ad. Now, this is the polar opposite of on-site retail media advertising. Think about someone like Amazon, where search results now have a couple dozen sponsored product ads per page with close to near saturation. OpenAI has a very different bet that is restraint, that builds long-term value rather than filling every available slot. Second is the algorithmic play. Asad Awan described a future where a small shoe brand doesn't need to hire 3 performance marketers. Instead, the founder tells ChatGPT, sell more shoes in the Midwest, and the system handles campaign creation, bidding, and optimization. Now, to be honest, this is where my Spidey sense goes up. Algorithmic performance models like this can work well for SMBs, but sophisticated advertisers, brands and agencies alike, want more granularity and precision. What I hear anecdotally again and again is that these algorithmic black box models are not very popular amongst the sophisticated large advertisers out there. So I really hope that it's not black box or nothing here. Did you know that leading retail media networks drive 85% of their ads through mid and long tail advertisers? Miracle Ads provides full funnel ad formats tailored to both 1P and 3P advertisers, leveraging unique AI capabilities that provide unprecedented levels of relevance and engagement. Retailers who want to capture ad spend from the long tail of 3P marketplace sellers use Miracle Ads in their tech stack. Learn more at miracle.com. That's MIRAKL.com. Number 3, the audience split. Ads appear only on the free and go tiers, and paying subscribers see no ads. Now that's a classic freemium play, not super surprising, but think about what that means. Some of the power users don't see any ads. Advertisers only get the people who are using the free tier. And is that audience as valuable as the power users? So that's interesting. Maybe like traditional media, we have examples where I pay a subscription for the Wall Street Journal, let's say, and I still see ads. I pay for Disney and I still see ads. So that might be a direction that they go in as well. Right, let's talk now about what this means for retail media. So this wasn't part of the podcast interview, of course, did not come up, but here's the links that I'm going to draw back there. The most immediate implication is that there is now a high intent ad surface that sits upstream of the retailer. So this is the most obvious threat to retail media. New ad surface that could be quite appealing to a brand advertiser. As of right now, this is extremely limited. It's advertisers paying on a CPM basis. Actually, Debbie Aho Williamson, who writes a great Substack I'll link to in the comments, said that she had anecdotally heard that the insertion orders for the ChatGPT ads were all being done on spreadsheets. So it is definitely early days here. But this is conceptually a threat to retail media just because it's a new ad surface that sits upstream of a retailer. But that is not the only challenge, and it's easy to disregard AI media because if you consider that to be the only threat. The bigger threat in my mind is all of these signals that retailers have built their ad businesses on, which is the strength of their first-party data. They know what you actually bought. They know what you're considering buying. They know what you clicked. They know what you clicked and didn't purchase. That is the strength of retail media, whether we're talking about on-site or off-site. All of this context, planning, researching, and then finally, of course, the closed loop eventual sale. So this migration of research in the shopper journey takes away those signals. So that is a topic that I've covered extensively in past episodes. I'll link up to those in the show notes. But I bring this up because Asad Awan in that interview teased something that directly connects to that thesis, which is where he described a future where ads work behind the scenes, an AI agent that knows that you like ramen and they discover a new vegan ramen brand, and the AI surfaces that and may eventually facilitate that purchase for you. So if that becomes real, then the entire discovery to purchase journey happens inside that AI layer. Again, I think that is, the technology isn't creating a perfect experience around that yet, but that is the potential eventual threat as well. Now, from this conversation, it seems that Asad Awan said all the right things, but every platform says the right things at launch. Google didn't set out to make search results indistinguishable from ads. Amazon didn't plan for sponsored products to overwhelm organic results. The real test isn't how this looks today, it's what happens in year 3 when there's an entire division within OpenAI with revenue targets, and if it eventually becomes a public company and people are asking whether that wall between the model and the ads really needs to be quite so rigid. Will that AI ads ecosystem face a version of the retail media doom loop when the easy money from advertisers is gone? The answer that Asad Awan gave in the podcast to that question is this: we are in the business of trust. You can't drift when the incentive is set up to be the best at this. Maybe OpenAI's diversified revenue streams with enterprise customers, with subscriptions, things like that, maybe that gives them less pressure to squeeze ads than for traditional publishers, for example, or retailers where the media revenue stream has become more and more important. I learned the hard way that a small party doesn't stay small unless you keep coming back to your principles. OpenAI's real test won't be launch week, it'll be year 3 when the growth targets show up.